once we start the meeting. So you can go ahead and go live, man. Let them see what's going on in here also. And our mics. Check.
Ready, man?
Yes, I am. What's that? Yeah, there's one rule in this. We can start late, but we can never start early. 2-minute warning, according to my Apple phone.
Not your Swatch watch.
Nah. Oh, I've got a story about a Swatch watch.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
I don't know if you guys watch the Reels channel. Do you ever watch Paw Patrol Live? It's like the new version.
Our mics are live.
So my husband's the police chief. Wanting to link the big crowd on their most wanted program live this weekend.
That's good.
And we're
Good.
we're huge fans.
You'll be very
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow you're gonna have that?
I don't think it's needed.
Okay.
We're gonna teach.
Watch for something.
What?
It's because of the weather.
On Patrol
Right.
Live,
Do you want me here?
it's on the Reels channel.
I don't think so.
Okay.
REELZ.
Some of it's about the planning commission.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have nothing to do with that.
So every Friday, Saturday, they ride with
Gratefully.
Gratefully and thankfully, prayerfully, and any other Ali. Muhammad Ali.
pensions and little departments like ours. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
My phone get foiled for me using it as a time clock. All right, 1700, we're going to bring this meeting to order. Commissioner Marchetti.
Yes, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this time together to take care of county business. Help us to understand one another and to work together in harmony. Aid us in helping our country grow and prosper and become a welcoming beacon for those who want to come here to live and work and enjoy all we have to offer. Bless all who came here tonight and their loved ones. Bring our armed forces safely home. Bless our country, our state, and beautiful Cass County. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Howard.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Monica, you call the roll, please.
Yes. Commissioner Leyland.
Present.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Present.
Commissioner Locke.
Here.
Chair Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Howie. Here. Commissioner Barrera.
Present.
Commissioner Marchetti. Here. And Commissioner Lee.
Here. All right, all is present. Thank you for coming. Item number 5 on our agenda is introduction of visitors. I'm going to forego that as long as I don't have any objection from my commissioners because of the number of people we have here. We'd be here all night. We've got business to attend. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So, moving on to item number 6 for public comment. Before I open the floor for public comment, you have a 3-minute limit. And usually I will give people extra time, but also due to the amount of people we have and the controversial topic we're going to be talking about, 3 minutes is it. You're going to sit down and the next person, give the next person an opportunity to speak and have that respect for your fellow citizen. Anybody out in the overflow room, if you want to speak, I'd ask you to please line up at the door and wait your turn. And I'm assuming that we have people for and people against. So I suggested to both sides, for lack of better words, that if it's not repetitive, by all means. But if it's going to be the repetitive, same comments, same conversation, maybe just pick one spokesman or woman and speak your piece and then have a seat. But I cannot restrict you. I don't have nowhere to be tomorrow, so I've got all night. So that's up to you all in the audience that have to work in the morning. Me, when the alarm goes off, snooze, snooze, snooze. So with that said, I will open the floor for public comment. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Diane Barrett Curtis. I'm a longtime resident of the County of Cass in the City of Dowagiac, and I am speaking in opposition to Resolution 4323. I am not a gun owner, although I did once shoot the broadside of a barn with a handgun. I have quite a few family members who have collections of guns and rifles, some who practice good safety storage methods, and a few that I'm not too sure about. To the best of my research, none of these bills has been enacted nor signed into law yet, and as citizens of Michigan, we all have the right to contact our representatives to express our views on proposed legislation. Although I do support this legislation, I would encourage anyone with different opinions to contact their legislators. That is certainly one of our rights, and I would almost say obligations, as citizens of the United States and citizens of Michigan. I retired from the county about 20 years ago after serving for over 23 years as magistrate and clerk of the 4th District Court. I believe the oath of office I took then, and that you probably took as commissioners, stated that I would support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan. The oath didn't include a statement that I could ignore any laws that I didn't like, which had been legally adopted by the legislature. During my time in office, there were a number of people who had complaints about some of the laws that were currently in force in Michigan, and I always encouraged them, along with anyone who had any disputes with the laws in Michigan, to contact their legislators and work to have those changed. And you can see that this does happen just by the change in the marijuana statutes that have occurred over the last few years. That's the way our system works. I am also concerned that by in effect ordering elected officials in the county to fail to enforce legally enacted laws, you are overstepping your authority. I don't think that legally elected officials in the county are obligated to follow those orders, however you have worded them. Additionally, if you withhold funds from any of the elected officials, especially funds budgeted to the courts, which are in fact a separate branch of government, you will have a huge lawsuit on your hands. I hope that you have budgeted ample resources to defend that lawsuit when it most assuredly will be filed by the judges in the county. It would certainly be a shame for taxpayer money to be spent on such lawsuits rather than on supporting our courts and the services they provide to the citizens of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. I have the unique part here tonight to affirm what happens when you actually have a gun at your disposal. I was in a campground in the UP several years ago with my family, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the characters right out of the movie Deliverance. They walked through my campsite, okay? As they walked through my campsite, this is 9 o'clock in the morning, beer in hand, 3 brothers sitting across the road on the table, drinking beer. The guy's telling him what I have in my campground, at my site. He said, "You got a brand new Coleman Kohler, brand new Coleman stove." And they were serious. And it got to a point, I picked up the canvas off my camper and pulled out a shotgun. And I pulled out my .357 Magnum, because when you trout fish up in the UP, you want it bear proof. So I laid the Magnum on the tire of my truck, and I put the shotgun over my shoulder, and I just stared at him. I'd already made up my mind what I was going to do, but I just stared at him. Pretty soon they got up and they walked away. They went up to the campground, And while they were walking up, we loaded up the camper with everything we had. We put everything in the camper. We took off down the road. You ever seen a state cop turn his car around at 60 mile an hour in the road? I met a state trooper, turned around, pulled me over, and when he walked up the side of my truck, he had his gun in his hand. And I kind of froze. I asked him, I said, what's going on? I said, I know I wasn't speeding. He said, we've got an APB out for you for armed robbery, assault with intent to kill. And they walked out of my campsite. They walked up to the camp store. There was nobody else around. We were alone. Camp store was alone. Walked into camp store, pistol whipped the guy running the camp store so bad they put him in the hospital. They held his wife on her knees with a gun stuck in her ear while they were ransacking the place. I ask you just one question. What do you think would have happened to me had I not had a gun at my disposal? That in itself, and I think I'm one of the 1 million that the FBI talks about where he diverts a crime with the mere presence of a gun. And you can look that up, make sure my numbers are right. It's scary. It's scary out there. And if you take my ability to defend myself and my family, I'm going to be upset.
It's time, sir.
Okay?
Thank you. What was your name, sir? I'm sorry.
What's your name?
Larry Westgate,
Larry Westgate.
Porter Township.
Thank you, sir. Out in the hallway, please. Next speaker out in the hallway. Yes, ma'am. If we could have your name and what township you're in.
So I've prepared something to read here because I didn't want to miss anything. My name is Lois Cole from Wayne Township. My father was an Army sharpshooter and taught all his children how to shoot straight and understand that guns are tools, not toys. He told us if you can't hit something with one shot, then don't shoot. The guns are kept under the bed. I stopped deer hunting 30 years ago when my son was born. The fear-mongering media says that the libs are going to take people's guns. That's just not true, and I wish this nonsense would stop. The Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Who came up with the idea of bearing arms as a God-given right? Which of the gods granted people the right to bear arms? The Abrahamic God of Christians, Jews, and Muslims? Or maybe the Hindu god Ganesh? Or maybe the gods of the First Nations? God has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Founder John Adams said, arms in the hands of citizens to be used at individual discretion is to demolish every constitution and lay the laws prostrate so that liberty can be enjoyed by no man. It is a dissolution of the government. The fundamental law of the militia is that it be created, directed, and commanded by the laws, and ever for the support of the laws. During the February 16th Senate session, Senator Baer said, guns are the #1 cause of death for children and young adults today. Our MSU students this week were told to execute what they've been practicing for years, hide, run, flight. It didn't work, doesn't work, and 8 more kids were shot. Senator Camilleri said, what freedom when your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are taken away by someone we all know should never have had a gun in the first place. We all deserve freedom to live in safe communities. These senators were elected by the people of Michigan and represent all of us. They offer basic firearm safety bills that will require safe storage of firearms, ensure we have background checks on all firearm purchases, and make sure that those are known by the court to be at risk to themselves or others do not have firearms. Cass County Commissioners have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure the security of government property assets, facilities, and inventory. They take an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan. They do not have the authority to willingly neglect their duty to support the rule of law.
Ma'am,
That's
time.
called anarchy. And I'm done.
Thank you. One more from, we had two in the room, then we have two from the hallway. Is Naomi next, or are you, sir, with the red shirt? Yeah, you're next. And then we have the gentleman there by the no exit door.
My name's Charles Fish, resident of Cass County. I did not come tonight for firearm stuff. I didn't know this was going on. So I actually came to talk about the Parks Department and Harmon Park, both the boat launch and the park. I visited the Parks Committee last fall, left a letter with them to see if they could maybe invest some money, look into some of the problems we're having. And I just, with the turnover with new people, since Skip was the one I was dealing with, I thought I'd come tonight, introduce myself, see if you guys could look into some of the things going on, how we could increase the quality of life in the subdivision on the lake. The association for the last 4 or 5 years has paid for trash service. We have volunteers that pick it up every Monday, Sunday night. We're sort of tired of calling the sheriff to come out and police it on the weekends for tailgaters to things that aren't going correctly. Recently, they've created a Shavehead Lake governmental weed board, so now we're being assessed $70 plus for weeds. The boat launch is probably 95% responsible for the invasive weeds in the lake, and the county owns it. And so just looking for some options to let you guys know there are problems and see if maybe you could push the Parks Department to look into some of that stuff for me. So can I leave these? That's the letter I gave the Parks Department last fall, and just following up on it. So good luck tonight.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on, I forgot to mention that we don't have any back and forth, because especially tonight, that'd be really dangerous. But if you have an issue like the parks, get with that specific commissioner or with your district commissioner. That's why we have you call out what township you're from, so we know who to point you in the right direction. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for putting this together, and thank you all for the respect and the dignity. I'm Jim Peterson. I live here in the village of Cassopolis. My comments will be to the resolution itself, not to the underlying gun bills. They're talking about that in Lansing, and I'll let that settle itself out. The second whereas says the people of Cass County regard the right to keep and bear arms as inalienable right. Inalienable right is kind of strong, because we know that we can take guns away from felons. We don't want felons to have guns. So I would suggest that under due process, it's not an inalienable right for everybody, and certainly the Constitution doesn't suggest that. The resolution says throughout that these proposed bills, which just got introduced today, are probably several days or weeks from getting passed. The resolution says they're unconstitutional. They just got written. They haven't even had a hearing yet. So let's wait and see. I would say they're constitutional. There's all three are in effect in other jurisdictions, and they've been found to be constitutional. Justice Antonia Scalia, no flaming liberal there, said, like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any matter whatsoever and for whatever purpose. Justice Antonin Scalia in D.C. versus Heller. Most recently, the United States Supreme Court let alone very strict laws governing who can purchase guns and carry concealed weapons in New York. That was just this year, January 23, Gazzola versus Hochul. And I've got this in writing, too, if the clerk wants it. Finally, banning any Cass County officials or resources from enforcing a duly enacted Michigan state law is just very bad policy. What if a similar resolution was passed for traffic laws, sales of alcohol or tobacco, if the commission voted to make cannabis illegal again? It's a terrible, terrible resolution. If you need further proof that this resolution is poorly written or thought out, you're voting to defund the police. The resolution says we're going to take money away from the sheriff should he decide to enforce the law, the prosecutor, the judges. And further, I'm really puzzled that 8 Republican county commissioners would vote against a tax cut. One of the bills, SB 76 through 86, is a tax cut. It eliminates state sales tax on gun safes. And I can't believe that you're going to vote in favor of that. Look it up. Certainly we might expect some of you, most of you, some of you to oppose these gun safety bills as a political statement. That isn't what the resolution is doing. It's not just a political statement. It's a policy statement. It says you're going to defund the police. You're going to vote against a tax cut. The sheriff's sworn to uphold the law, the prosecutor's sworn to uphold the law, judges to adjudicate. That you would ban them from enforcing the law is bad. So I would suggest, I'm in favor of you voting it down, but if not voting it down, at least table it, take another look at it, and see if this is really what you want it to do. Make it a political statement. I get that. Make it a
That's
political
time,
statement.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
My Michigan State friend in the back. Go blue, by the way.
I go both blue and green.
All right.
Anyway, on February 13th, 2023, a mass shooting occurred. I'm sorry, I'm Jill Munich from Ontour Township. My Ontour Township peeps know me. Occurred in 2 buildings on Michigan State University campus where my grandson attends. 3 students had their entire future stolen from them, and 5 others were critically wounded from injuries they received from an angry, hostile madman with an unregistered gun and an axe to grind, brutally murdered and maimed them, thereby leaving their families and their friends forever denied the opportunity to see them and seeing their bright future. Gone were their anticipated graduations, erased were their dreams of jobs, weddings, and baby showers, and all the things they had the right to look forward to, all gone in a flash. I was on Twitter when I saw a tweet appear from a co-ed showing a video in real time of students streaming out of the student union. My first thought was, oh God, my grandson is there. I immediately messaged my daughter, who was listening to the police scanner, for updates as to his safety, and thank God he was shaken but alive. I was terrified that night for us and for all the families in Cass County who have children, family members, and friends on the campus. The shooter, who had a record and was described by his own father as an evil, angry man, was allowed to slip through the cracks of our justice system and given the green light to kill our children, our precious children. He should have never had that gun, and he certainly should have been called out as being a dangerous person. If I had a son or daughter, I would have done that if it meant saving the life of someone else's loved one. Please do not vote in favor tonight of this proposed resolution. Going forward, I beg for you to consider the safety of our children and families, both here and away at school. I am praying that the board make the right decision and truly safeguards the families of Cass County.
Thank you, ma'am. Out in the hallway, there's anybody else? We know you.
Hi.
State your name anyway, please.
Mary Clark, Cass County, Cassopolis. Yes, thanks for letting me talk. I have to say, I just heard about this a couple days ago, and I thought, well, do they even pass the law yet at the state level? And I don't believe that we even know what the law actually looks like. But as far as I know, it's about universal background checks and, you know, things that keep people from having guns if they are deemed to be a threat to themselves or others, which to me seems pretty common sense. I don't know, anybody could just walk in those doors down there, and I don't think you would want that person to be, you know, having a mental problem and be carrying a weapon. I think we're trying to be safe as a community, and we want our kids to be safe in the schools, and for the state to do nothing in the face of the things that have just happened in the schools. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that a government would just say, I mean, does this county want to kind of like secede from the state of Michigan? Like, oh, we don't like this law, we're not going to follow that one. Oh, well, we're going to pick and choose in this county? Is that kind of the idea? That's just a question. How much time do I have left?
Minute 15 seconds.
15 seconds?
Minute and 15 seconds.
So that's kind of why I do tell people, sometimes I think Cass County is kind of like the Texas of Michigan, because it really seems like, you know, well, if there's the Democratic legislature, which we have now, so, well, when we had Republican-controlled legislatures, it seems like everything, we didn't have this kind of thing, you know? So it's kind of a little confusing, you know, to me and possibly others. So that's about what it is in a nutshell, as far as I
Okay.
can put it.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
One more out in the hallway. Oh, is it, we got one more, or is it, how many did I do? I'm lost now.
Seems like there were a lot on the.
All right, we'll do the cowboy, and then we'll have you next.
Thank you, sir.
I like that hat.
How you doing? My name's Jeff Hupp, and I live in Valina Township. Honored all the board members. I got 3 points I'd like to make. Number one, if I set a gun on this table, it will not pick itself up and shoot any one of you. Number two, the Second Amendment is about our right, all of us in this room, to protect ourselves from the oppression of all of you elected officials. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. All right.
It's not about duck hunting.
Thank you. I'll make my comments brief as well. Dan Adams, Pokagon Township. I'm also a precinct delegate. I'd like to speak in favor of the resolution, actually. And the reason for that, although the laws have not come down, I understand they're still being litigated. I have read a review of each of them, and it does seem extremely likely that whatever does get passed will violate and be repugnant to the Constitution, specifically the Second Amendment. Because of this point right here, the gentleman earlier brought up DC versus Heller, and I was reading up on this myself this afternoon, and something very insightful came up during that case, not necessarily to the point that gentleman made, but regarding weapons of common use. You see, this court case established that weapons in common use cannot be restricted, and it's therefore infringement of our Second Amendment rights if the weapons in common use are in play with these laws. And so I expect these laws to include weapons in common use. And this was recently established in Congress during a congressional hearing I was listening to, by the way, that referenced DC versus Heller. And I thought it was very interesting because a well-regulated militia is expected to be called upon, and they're expected to have weapons of the day, common use weapons that they could defend their community with. I understand we don't have that per se today, but we have an armed populace. We are the greatest armed populace in the world. And secondly, I'd like to speak to I guess at least the one gal who spoke previous to me with regard to what we can do to secure our safety, like in this room. Well, I would like to remind her that there are armed law enforcement in this room protecting us, and there may even be, I don't know your rules regarding concealed carry, but there may just be someone who's protecting your life, whether you realize it or not. So I thank you all for what you're doing as commissioners. I think you're doing excellent work, and I want to commend you for supporting the entire Constitution and all of our rights, no matter how we fall one way or another.
Thank you, sir. There was a hand up. Yes, ma'am. Another Michigan Stater.
You betcha. These are 3 names you need to know: Alexandria, Ariel, and Brian. My name's Carol Ostin, and my husband Denny and I live in Silver Creek Township, and we've lived there for the past 37 years. We are both proud alumni of Michigan State, and that's part of why I'm here tonight. On February 13th, I watched in horror and sadness as a mass shooting unfolded on the campus that I love so much. As I'm sure you know, 3 students were killed that night and 5 were critically injured. What you may not know is that there were students on campus that night who had survived the mass shooting at Oxford High School just a year before. There was also one student on campus that night who had survived the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School 10 years ago. I've been on campus since that day, and I can say that the mood there is heavy. There's an incredible sadness, and there's anger. Why does this keep happening? Why are kids not safe at school? I was heartened a few days later that the Michigan Senate had proposed some common sense legislation on gun safety. Universal background checks for all gun sales, both public and private, safe gun storage requirements, and extreme intervention orders to keep guns out of the hands of people convicted of violent crimes and those who show signs of harming themselves or others. This part of the Senate legislation may have made a difference on February 13th. I'm encouraged that the Senate has chosen to start addressing gun safety in our state. Maybe we can now look our children in the eye when they ask, why does this keep happening, and tell them that some meaningful action for change is coming. But then I read the resolution that's been proposed by this Cass County Board of Commissioners, which is why I'm here tonight. I'm confused by the resolution on several levels. The resolution deals with the right to bear arms. The Senate bill requires that people purchase guns legally and maintain them safely. These two things are not one and the same. Am I to assume that you don't support background checks and safe storage of guns, and that you believe people should be able to buy and keep guns even when they demonstrate that they have the potential to harm themselves or others? Your resolution, as I read it, assumes that the Senate bill is written to take people's guns away. It is not. In addition to my concerns about the specific issue of gun safety, there is also a presumption in the resolution that you can just follow the laws you agree with. The resolution orders that Cass County not enforce amendments or legislation coming from this bill. When people are duly elected to Congress, they propose and vote on legislation. Local elected officials then enforce that legislation. That is what we elected you to do. You don't get to opt out just because you don't agree. The resolution also expects all elected officials of Cass County to support and enforce it. In other words, to defy state law. Is this really the position you want to put these people in? And again, they are elected to enforce the law. The people of Cass County elected all of you to uphold all of the legally constituted laws of the state of Michigan. By voting no on this resolution, you will confirm to all of us that you are doing what you have been elected to do. I'd like to end by quoting Troy, who was an MSU student who took a bullet to the chest on February 13th and survived. Among many other things, he said, "My world has been turned upside down so suddenly, but I refuse to be a number or a statistic. Alongside my family, my friends, community, university, and state government officials, we will enact change." And I'm part of his community.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, out in the hallway.
Hello, I'm Kevin Hirschberger, and I'm from LaGrange Township, and I'm here representing 4 guys from Penn and LaGrange Township, and I don't have a big prepared statement, and I'm glad I'm not sitting where you guys are, but I just going to keep it short and simple, and we're here for the pro-gun and just express that like that, so I don't have no other fancy statement, so that's what I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
One more out in the hallway.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Leonard Kern. I'm in LaGrange Township. I am for this proposal. Lansing has showed their intentions to basically disarm the state. In December, they put forward the bill that would ban most all semi-automatic rifles. Anything that would hold over a 10-round mag, anything that had a handguard over the barrel, anything that had a pistol grip. It didn't go through because it was put forth by somebody who lost their seat, so they couldn't reintroduce it. But you can be assured it's in the works. So we know what's coming. These proposals that they're putting forward, that they want to put into law, are unconstitutional. Now, I'm a sworn deputy. I was in the military. I've sworn an oath to defend the Constitution. In 1801, Chief Justice Marshall declared that a law repugnant to the Constitution is void. Right. Well, the Constitution is clear. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. The definition of infringement is to transgress or exceed the limits of, to defeat, invalidate, or to encroach upon a way that violates the law or rights of others. Now, we don't put laws that restrict voting. It's a right. You don't do that. Constitution states, Second Amendment, we have a right. Now, we have many laws that restrict guns, but it is getting to the point where gun owners are going to be a vanishing breed. They're trying to disarm us. My question is, why are they trying to disarm us? The ban that they put forth in December was for assault rifles or anything with a magazine capacity over 10. Lost my train of thought. There was 455 deaths from rifles nationwide. Why are they banning rifles? There are more people killed with hands and feet, according to the FBI statistics, and rocks, than all the rifles in the whole country. There are far more people killed with knives. There's almost 4 times as many people killed with knives. What, time up?
No, I was 15 seconds.
Oh. And in closing, I applaud you for putting forth this resolution.
Thank you,
And
Leonard.
I hope it passes. Thank you.
Do I have one in the hallway, or is it back, we're back to the room? We'll go with the hallway. She's already on her way.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're all good. No apology necessary.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Attanat. I'm not from your county. My children live in the LaGrange Township area, so I'm getting to know you guys and what you guys do here. I'll also tell you that I'm a victim of domestic violence, and you probably wouldn't have known that until I said it, right? And so, yeah, the father of my children, he works at Colette Casopolis High School. His name is Anthony Myrtle. And what has been happening for the past 2.5 years has been atrocious. And I'm in Virginia. And I had no idea the reason why I haven't been able to participate on my children's IEP meetings and participate in after school was because he works at the school, and I had no idea. So I found that out this morning, and I will bring that back to you because on Friday, when I was at the school, and I tried to just go there to get my daughter to sign a form that we needed to sign to have her complaint filed with the Department of Education. The police was called on me, and I didn't know it. I was the one that requested police officer assistance, and the security guard lied to the police. I actually have the recording, and called in a fake report. I just need to make sure you guys understand that I'm Black. And when police show up and they think a crime is happening, people like me get shot. I mean, I just need you guys to remember that. And the officer showed up, he was very aggressive because he came, which is, you're
Please,
actually,
sir.
Sir?
Yes, ma'am. You're speaking to us. That won't happen again.
Sir,
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
the police officer showed up and he was aggressive. And maybe not the people in this room, because you're right, there's some amazing people out there. I've met them, really sweet people. Love them all. However, that's not what I saw when I was at the school. He showed up because he was looking for the bad guy. That's what happens. I mean, they called in a fake report that somebody was trespassing on their property that they needed to have removed. And when I tried to explain to the officer that that's not what was going on, I was the one requesting assistance. But I couldn't be the victim in that situation because he works at the school. So that being said, when I tried to tell the police officer, because I know my rights, I'm actually very heavily involved in public policy work. I sit on boards. I do the thankless work, the work that people not find so sexy, the stuff that you guys do on the different committees. I do that work. And when I said that I'm just going to go to the state police and file my report, they said, no, you're not going to do that. You're not allowed to do that. And they actually called the state police before I got there. And the state police officer, so the Cass County Sheriff, his name was Zico. The state police officer, his name was Sergeant Sweet. And he said, yes, I got a call from them. No, you're not allowed to file your report here. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm reporting harassment. I have a right to do that.
That's your time, ma'am.
I'm asking for help. Who here sits on any of these policy committees for police? I would love to give you the rest of the information of what's going on, and I could help you guys create some policies because it should not be that obstruction of justice takes
Stay with
place.
us after the meeting, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I in the room or am I'm in the room? Anybody in the room? All right. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, he's gonna let the lady go first.
Hi, my name is Susan Stamp Boynton. I live in Porter Township. I have, in my opinion, a few reasons why we're having a problem with the guns. And it's because we don't have a good psych ward program. When I was in nursing school, I was up at the Kalamazoo Regional Psychiatric, and there were so many. We were working in the men's schizophrenic ward. And those people are in our communities now because that place is closed. Many psychiatric places that these people are getting guns are not all good citizens. That shouldn't take away from the good citizens who want to legally own a gun. And another thing is the hunters. Our deer population is out of control. I hit a deer just a couple weeks ago. And the coyotes, my husband shot 2 out of our bedroom window. They eat the animals, the cats, small dogs. We live out in the country. Burglaries. What are you going to do if you're home and your spouse is working or out and about? What are you going to do if someone breaks into your house and you hear them and you're in the laundry room? I do not have a permit, but we do have a gun in the house, and if somebody breaks in and threatens my life, I would use it. When we were first married in the early 1970s, we came home from the UP, and there was a car down our drive. And my husband walked down there, and there were 2 men in it, drunk. Well, we didn't have a gun, we didn't know if they had a gun. So I called my dad, and he came down with his shotgun, got the 2 men out. They didn't know where they were. Called the police. Police had them walk to the road and arrested them for drunk driving or whatever at the time. We've had a gun ever since. We were just in our early, very beginning 20s. My husband never knew how to shoot. He's taken shooting lessons. He's on a shooting club. And I don't think that's fair to even consider taking that right from the good citizens because of the bad citizens. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, sir.
Now you can come up, sir.
Dean Boyer, Porter Township. Can I ask a question?
We'll see.
I am getting this law, both sides of it. Is this something you're going to agree with what the federal law wants to write?
That you'll find out. That's going to be a back and forth, so we're going to continue on and go with your speech, sir, please.
Well, the only thing that I can say is if you bow to the federal law, it'll be worse than a cancer. You don't get rid of it once it's there. You don't tell them a couple months, well, we didn't really want to do this. It's over for us now. Correct? That's about all I got.
All right, sir. Thank you. Naomi, you up next? Out in the hallway. Naomi Ludman.
Thank you. And good evening, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Naomi Ludman, and I live in Dowagiac. First, I want to recognize and express my utmost respect and compassion for those having the courage to speak out tonight about what it was like to have a child, niece, or nephew, relative or friend who was personally impacted by a tragic shooting at MSU. And I've spoken with others who were in that same circumstance who haven't yet been here to speak or may not be here to speak, but they still experienced the trauma of having a child there. I want to speak as a community member who knows what it is like to have family members for whom I might need to seek an extreme intervention order in an effort to keep them from harming themselves or someone else. Over the years of my time in this community, I have known students who had to be driven to my college class in secret in order to be protected from a violent partner. My social worker friends can attest to the many times they have been on calls only to see firearms lying around on a table or counter within the reach of kids playing and running throughout the house. I have watched my husband stay up all night on suicide alert for one of his clients. What are the commissioners envisioning with this resolution? That if I come forward to law enforcement to seek an intervention order, the sheriff's deputy will say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I cannot do anything about that because here in Cass County, we don't obey these gun safety laws." Is that the intent? When, the universe forbid, something like a shooting at MSU or Oxford High happens here in Cass County, we would undoubtedly look back, as has happened so many times before, and find that these shootings could have and should have been prevented if we, the people, had had the will to enact common sense safety gun legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lynn Shantz. I'm precinct delegate for Pokagon Township. Everybody talks about the Constitution. Okay, yes, the Constitution. The United States Constitution. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution, it comes from the Bill of Rights. So the First Amendment is you have the right to speech, you have the right to peacefully protest, you have the right to assemble, you have the right of religion, and you have the right to redress the government, which I guess is what we're doing today. So then on the second hand, you have, on this one, the Second Amendment, you have the Second Amendment. Well, if anything happens to this Second Amendment over here, you no longer have your First Amendment. Because that Second Amendment, as everybody's saying, to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. And that means that if somebody is knocking at my door at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to have to tell him, wait a minute, I got to open up my gun safe. I got to get my gun out before, and you're hearing glass break. So you want to open up a gun safe? You want to take that time to try to get the safe opened up? When you've got your gun locked up and you know somebody's coming in your house? No, you don't want to do that. You want to have that gun right there. Yeah, and I know you have to keep it safe from kids and stuff, but you want to be able to protect yourself. These shootings at these schools, it's very sad that we have these shootings at the schools, but everybody must remember, all of the shootings that have happened at these schools have been gun-free zones. And if any of those students at State, which my daughter's alumni, I have a grandson who's alumni, if any of those students would have been at that area at that time, had guns, there wouldn't have been that many students killed or injured because they would have drew on that person who is the felon. The felon, they had been following him. They knew he was a problem. So I'm just saying, we want to be able to protect our rights. We want to be able to, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I'm going to protect me. I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to protect my property. And when you bring in the militia, yeah, it's written in there about the militia. So what does the militia do in this day and age? Okay, so you're in the neighborhood. So everybody gets all together and says, you know what, we have to get together. We have to fight the tyrannical government. That's what the Second Amendment is for, is to fight that tyrannical government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Patricia Mitchell. I am against this resolution. I did read the words that it's public that I saw. It does state you are referring to a law that has not been passed yet in the state of Michigan, but it is up and it probably looks like it's going to pass. My fear is that I'm looking at a page here. It's all your pictures, commissioners' responsibilities. I don't know if you've seen this. You can go to it. It's on the government site, Cass County. Below there, I'm not going to repeat them all because I can't do it in 3 minutes. Nowhere. I'm more worried about what I, having elected, some of you, at least the one in my township, Jefferson, are doing your job. And nowhere do I see that this resolution in any way is what you're supposed to deal with. I do know at least one person here that I do feel is doing things for the benefit to help all people, regardless of their race, regardless of their socioeconomic background. But this does not do that. And the one thing at the very bottom, it says, adopt other ordinance as provided by law. And as far as I'm concerned, this resolution is you deciding, those of you, if you are going to vote this in and are for this, that you will pick and choose the laws that you choose as a county to abide by. And that is dangerous. And where does it end? What laws next do you decide you are not going to abide by? And it also puts deputies, sheriffs, and law officers in a position, because I'm sure they take an oath to abide the law, and according to what you have written, if you pass this, you will be telling them you do not want them to follow those laws. And if they don't follow the laws, then why should I? Why should anybody? So it's a slippery slope, and you all better think about that if you vote this in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Can't miss you with that shirt on.
Came straight from work. My name is Cody Stick, Mason Township, and one thing that I haven't seen, and there's probably a reason, is the statistics on if the people who commit these shootings bought the gun they shot with. And I think there's a reason why we haven't seen that. And also, why America is here is because we chose for it to be here. We stood up against them. So just point out a few things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more in the room here? Because we got people standing up out there for a while. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mark Howie from Jefferson Township. I am in support of this resolution. I know all of you commissioners, some of you better than others, but I appreciate what you're doing. And my comment is, I know the law hasn't been passed yet, but with the Democrat House and Senate and governor, it will probably happen. The problem that I have with this, the law, this resolution kind of speaks against, is enforcement. And I've talked to our sheriff. I know our sheriff and our county prosecutor very well as well. The crimes that are committed, criminals don't abide by gun laws. I don't think they worry about where they got the gun, if they're in a gun-free zone, or if they shouldn't shoot somebody. They use the gun however they please. These laws are attacking law-abiding citizens, and they're trying to infringe on our rights. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am, by the door.
My name's Tanya Lilly. I'm from LaGrange Township, and I'm here to speak to you about the need in our neighborhood for the MEC Robin application. I was in contact with Commissioner Howie today, and I really appreciate her taking my calls and questions. We live in an area from, it's a neighborhood from about Lindy's to Cherry Grove Road and then into on M62. And we are definitely underserved by internet. Any new resident coming into our neighborhood, it's a rural neighborhood, so it's pretty big. There is no option for internet service. Frontier will tell them no. We actually have 2 residents in our neighborhood who have lived there for many years and wanted to get onto Frontier's service, and they were told no, they won't let anyone else come and join the service. Those of us who do have service, it's not dependable. I work for I'm a retired teacher, and I work part-time for the Michigan Department of Education's Office of Career and Technical Ed on grant work. And that's all done from home. And there's times when I'm supposed to get on a meeting, I can't get on. It's very slow, it times out. I've been keeping track on the calendar, September, October, and November, or August, September, and October, we had periods of 3 to 4 days every month that we did not have service. I did not have service the entire month, a phone or internet, for the entire month of November. And it wasn't until I filed a complaint with the Michigan Utility Commission that someone was sent out to fix it. And my neighbor, who is elderly, had to do the same thing. So I just want to let the commission know that this is really important to us. And I really appreciate you considering the needs of our large mileage neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Majestic beard, please.
Hello, my name is Ben Granger. I'm from Calvin Township. I'm in favor of the resolution. I grew up as a missionary kid, and we were in Russia and Ukraine a lot. And there's a museum there. It's called Baba Oksana on the river going through Kiev. And as a kid, I got to go through that museum, and I got to see what the Russians did to the Ukrainians during the battle there that happened between the Germans and the Russians and Ukrainians. The Russians forced over 1 million Ukrainians to cross that river to attack the Germans under fire of heavy machine gun, and they lost over 1 million people in that one battle because they could not resist either side. And also, what the Soviet Union did to the people in Russia and Ukraine, where I met people who the government would come in and take their food in the middle of the winter and leave them to starve to death. And they had friends and family that starved to death because they couldn't protect themselves from the government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I thought Go Blue was going up there. Julie Dye, you're next.
Bonjour, Jayek Quinoa, Julie Dye from Wayne Township. So I came from a family that survived on subsistence hunting, so I'm not anti-hunting. I raised a stepson from age of 4 who was diagnosed with schizophrenia as a teenager. His mental health worsened as he got older. When he came of age, he stopped and refused to take his meds. He became withdrawn and agitated, lost any job he could get, alienated all his friends and relatives, became homeless in Kalamazoo. He frequently threatened others, and he purchased a gun here in Michigan. My daughter was able to convince him to surrender the gun during a lucid moment. He committed a crime in Kalamazoo and fled to another state, where he again attempted to purchase a firearm. He wrote a manifesto and listed who he wanted to take out based on who had wronged him in his life. He committed suicide at age 25, but he attempted to take others with him. So it's foolish if you think you won't be touched by gun violence in this day and age. We must address it. We are truly dying for gun safety. It's not just a mental health issue either. It's anyone with a grievance, if they got a divorce, they lost their job, or they just have hatred for another group or race of people. I hear a lot about rights today. What about the rights of all the slain children? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Shan Burke, Jefferson Township. I'd like to start off with the first part of the children. I'm a gun owner. I have a right to protect my child and everybody else that's a gun owner with whatever means necessary if someone breaks into my house. The fact that we'd erode that is bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah, you'd be all right.
That's, we should not do that. And I hear about, it's not taking guns, we're not going to take your guns. But that's not the case. It's a slow erosion, just like the car tire wears. Magazine capacity. Oh, that didn't work. Still have shootings. So now we'll have something else, barrel length. It doesn't matter. The problem is the person, and we address the person. So the proposal is good because it stops the erosion, the slow process of limiting our abilities to protect ourselves. Secondly, I've worked every state this side of the Mississippi, Newtown, New Week, for years. Only the cities that don't allow guns we have to have the police to shut down a railroad crossing. If we come out here, it's A-okay. But if I go to Chicago, I can't shut a railroad crossing down without getting our truck shot, without getting shot at, which is bull. You know, but hey, they don't have guns, right? Gun law didn't work there. So why would we enact something or look other way? You know, so, and my last point would be, with this proposal, hopefully, if it went through, other counties will follow suit, in which it would send a message to Lansing that, hey, we're not going to stand for this. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Don't want to neglect my room people here. We have anybody else here in the room? Yes, sir, please.
I'm Roger Boyer. I'm from Porter Township. I'm 73 years old. When I was 12 years old, my dad taught me how to shoot a gun, and I've been shooting them ever since. When my kids were about 12 years old, I started teaching them. When my grandkids were that age, actually younger, we started teaching them. We don't have a problem with gun violence in our family. We never will, because they understand what guns are for. They're not for fooling around with. They're not for play. They're for two things, hunting and protection. We understand that, and that's how we live. I hear a lot of talk about new legislation, new laws and regulations. If the police, not so much the police, but the prosecutors and so forth around the country, especially around Lansing, this last thing at Michigan State, had carried out their laws accordingly, that young fellow would not have had a gun. He would not have been able to. And the point is, more gun regulations are not going to stop gun violence. They haven't stopped it now. We've got more than we ever had 150, 180 years ago. So more is not going to do it. I believe there are three things that we need to do to, and we're not going to stop it, but at least slow it down. One is adequately enforce our gun regulations and our criminal laws. And number two, we need better mental health. One lady talked about that. I believe that's very, very true. There was a problem with that boy in Lansing, a young man in Lansing. And number three, and this is going to be very controversial, I believe we need to repeal recreational marijuana. That has a whole lot to do with what's going on in America right now, especially in Michigan. Thank you. I support your resolution, even though there may be some flaws in it this time. The intent is great.
Thank you, sir. By the door.
I'd like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to speak. I didn't come with a prepared statement. I just hear a lot of things when I'm sitting out in the overflow that just aren't right. And one of them, the retired magistrate, came in and spoke about obeying duly passed laws within the state of Michigan. If they fly in the face of the Constitution, being the Second Amendment, they're null and void. You know, it doesn't matter what the state does. The Constitution is either we're going to follow the laws and we're going to, you can't cherry pick the Constitution and say, I like this one, I don't like this amendment. We'll just ignore that. You can't do that. The Constitution is the Constitution. I think this resolution could go a long way in preempting problems down the road somewhere. Right now in Illinois, I'm pretty sure most of you folks know it, there were 73 counties. The sheriff said, we're not going to enforce these new gun laws. We're not going to do it. Oregon passed some pretty stringent gun laws at the first of the year, and about half of their counties now are seceding or want to secede into Idaho. And Idaho is, oh, I'm serious. Look it up. Look it up. If you don't believe me, don't believe a word I say, check me. They want to secede into Idaho, and Idaho is welcoming them with open arms. We get into the background check the other lady was speaking about. That background check is in place already. It's called I believe it's 4373. I just picked up a firearm yesterday. That's an FBI national background check. So I don't see where we need redundant more and more laws. The retired magistrate was talking about court cases. You know, this is going to cost a lot of money. Yeah, it is. If we allow the state to run over our rights, there's going to be pushback. And that's going to cost a lot more money than a local case. It will be very, very costly to adjudicate all those cases. Or they'll probably just get rolled into one. There were a couple other things that were said that I find to be totally false. You know, that people don't get it. They don't understand. They come very uninformed. And with that, I would like to say, I'm sorry, Charlie Arnold from Mason Township. You know me, Jeremiah. So I skipped over. But anyway, in my township the other day, and I'm pretty sure the commissioners know it, the ones that need to know it, there was a home invasion where a little girl had a gun stuck in her face. And, oh yeah, you can check with the commissioners, and herded into a bedroom and told to stay there or he'd kill her. Okay, now, her dad wasn't home, but it would have been nice to have a firearm in the house to protect his family, his daughter. And the thing I'm working at here is, very quickly, the thing I'm working at here is I'm pretty sure the gentleman who broke into the house had that gun illegally.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
By the door. You kind of strategically put yourself there.
Hello, my name is Rick Briand. I'm from Niles Township. I came here to support you guys in passing the resolution. I think it's a good idea. A lot of people said already what I wanted to say, that any law that's repugnant to the Constitution is unlawful. One thing I think that you can mention in that is if the sheriff is being forced to enforce unconstitutional laws, then you're putting them in jeopardy just as much as if you're telling them that they don't have to. Where if you tell them they don't have to enforce an unconstitutional law, then the state can come in and deal with you guys legally. But you are obligated to protect all of your citizens' rights, and you do have a fiduciary duty to all the people that are here. Larry in the overflow room wanted me to tell you that Chicago's a gun-free zone, and they have murders every day, and if gun laws work, then there wouldn't be any killing in Chicago. I remember when I was 9, I took hunter safety, and I was out hunting with my brother when I was 12 years old, and we never had a problem with guns. I went to high school with a gun rack in my truck and a shotgun on the gun rack, and I got in a fight with somebody, and we didn't take out our guns, we just fought with our fists. So it's not a gun problem, it's a people problem. And if, you know, someone mentioned mental health, when Ronald Reagan shut down the mental health institutions, he caused a real problem for people, and we're still dealing with that mental health issue. And there's people that should be being taken care of that need mental health, but you can't punish everybody because there's mentally ill people out there. You know, it's just the way it is. Everybody deserves to have their rights, and you can't take away rights from everyone to try and protect one person. My daughter died in a car accident. I know what it's like to have a child one day and not have them the next day, so I feel for the people that lost their lives there at Michigan State. But if any one of them would have been armed, that they could have stopped that, you know, and taken away their guns. It's a gun-free zone, and so that law didn't work there either. So I guess that's about all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys make the right decision.
Thank you, sir. That's a question out there. How many people are out in the hallway? You got a whole line? A couple more. All right. Next in line. No hurry. I've got all night. Come on, brother. I can't speak for everybody else.
My name is Jack Bricker, and I am from Penn Township. I am for this resolution. I am from Syria. Yes, the country you guys are hearing about this earthquake and the thousands of people that have died. Underestimated everything they're saying. There's over 100,000 people unaccounted for. But I do come here with a warning for all those peoples that think it's no big deal to chisel away at laws like this a little bit at a time. Where I come from, there are no rights for the citizens. It's all the government, the tyrant government that we've lived under. I am a Christian minority in a Muslim country, and this is how it all happens. It starts a little bit at a time. They take away a little bit at a time from you guys. I come with a major warning. My grandfather tells me of days when they were able to protect themselves and do stuff, you know, for their family and stuff, because they did have guns. But a little bit every time they took away some of those rights. this day, there's absolutely no guns with any of the citizens. And the tyrant government, does whatever they want. They come to any house. They take away whatever they want without question asked. God forbid you guys do end up with a tyrant government in here, where they will come and, not question you and doing anything they want, but do as they please. So be warned, these laws do take away your rights a little bit at a time. Before you wake up, you have none left. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ben Michael of Calvin Township. Excuse me if my voice cracks. I'm very nervous. So I'm a transplant from the Hoosier State. It scared me moving from a red state to a blue state, being that my fear of becoming a criminal by default just because of irrational laws being put in place. I'm a very reasonable person, but I also feel that just because it's reasonable doesn't mean it's right. So I also stand on the side of what I feel is right, and that's all of our rights and all of the amendments, our Constitution. And I also like to bring up the point that the signers of the Declaration of Independence were all basically criminals as soon as they signed their signatures. And now we revere them for what they've created. So we're going to take decent, law-abiding citizens and turn them into criminals at the stroke of a pen. And I just appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate seeing everybody here, and have a good evening.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Who is it?
Did you want to speak?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I just didn't know if you could see her. She was raising her hand.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Daisha Kirkland. I'm in Jefferson Township. So I just want to say, when my son was in intermediate school, 5th grade, I went to visit him one day for lunch, and they had an active shooter training while we were there, and it was so disheartening and sickening that our kids have to do that. However, I had a cousin who committed suicide the day after Christmas 5 years ago. And I personally have a family member that struggles severely with depression and anxiety. And over the last 3 months, for that person in my family, I have made over 30 phone calls trying to just find counseling for them. I've been told that there is a 10-month wait list, 400 people on the wait list for this one place I called. It took me over 2 months to get this person into counseling. I'm telling you, it is not a gun problem. If we are not going to use, if we're going to stand for this, which I support, because I understand that the state is probably going to pass these, but if we don't take a stand, then who will? If we're not going to use tax dollars to support these laws that Michigan wants to put through, then let's use our tax dollars to put resources and money into getting people the help that they need. That's the problem. Do you know how easy it is? So if we take all guns away, do you know how easy it is to make a pipe bomb? I can tell you, because when I was in high school, at our float site, a kid made a pipe bomb and put it in a mailbox. Are we gonna ban PVC piping? I had a girl that was in high school with me that got stabbed in the back of the head with a pencil. Are we gonna take pencils away? Let's put money into resources into getting people the help that they need. It is absolutely ridiculous that I spent 2 months trying to get this person a counseling appointment. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Kevin Kelsheimer, Jefferson Township. I am a Vietnam combat veteran. I am also 27 and a half years as a police officer. And I do have guns. And for somebody to come in and say, you cannot have a gun when I've carried one since I've been 18 years old is ridiculous. I agree that there is some people that do not deserve it. They have mental problems, and it's not just mental problems, it's felonies and stuff like that. If they take away our gun rights now, what are they going to do next? Homemade knives? You know, where does it stop? That's all I got to say.
Welcome home, veteran. My neighbor in the back.
I'm John Neville from Pokagon Township. So I'm hearing a lot of things about, you know, the tragedy at MSU and absolutely, and you know, I think it was I don't remember which politician it was, says never let a good crisis go to waste, and they sure haven't. So bad things happen, you know, bad people are going to do bad things regardless. It's how good people react to those situations is what makes a difference. There was a situation in Greenwood at the mall in Indiana where a guy went into the bathroom with, you know, a rifle in his backpack, came back out, started shooting up the place. It was a good guy with a gun from 25 yards away that he wasn't supposed to have, which ended more people dying. Another one was in Texas in 2019 where a guy broke into a church while it was in session, started shooting up the place with an AK-47. 5 people that were in pews turned around and eliminated the threat. So the moral of this story is in life we have wolves, we have sheepdogs, and we got sheep. So when the sheep see that the wolves are killing their fellow sheep by using teeth, what sense does it make for the sheep to pull out their teeth? That is exactly what gun control is. You can't stop the wolves from killing the sheep, and that is how I perceive all gun control. Constitutionally wise, shall not be infringed should say enough as it is. We're always going to have evil and good, and as long as we keep the ability to defend ourselves and protect ourselves and others, then good will triumph. And it's obviously not going to come without some casualties. But by disarming the populace, by allowing these laws to happen, we're just asking for more fatalities, more catastrophes. Another thing I wanted to bring up that I hadn't heard yet anybody talk about was the red flag laws that are being introduced in Michigan. These are scary. Red flag laws violate your first, your second, and your fifth. Due process, you're guilty until proven innocent. We're going to come confiscate, illegally search and seizure your property, remove your firearms on the baseless allegations of an anonymous tip. We can't have that here in Cass County. We can't. Okay, but yep, that's all I had.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. You're good. All right. There are no more. I'm going to close the floor for public comment. Thank you all. And thank you for being respectful and respecting each other and not having any drama. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we're moving on. Approval of agenda. Commissioner Lawrence, please.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Or wait. I have a motion and a support. We have discussion, please.
Yes, I would like
Or
to.
we have
remove
discussion.
M-30-20. I would like to amend the agenda and remove M-30-23.
Second. We have a motion on the floor for an amendment with support. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, do we need a roll call for that? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, do we have to go back and
Approve the agenda.
approve the agenda? So we already have the motion on the floor in a second. Is there any further discussion with that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thank you. No recognitions.
Thank you.
No presentations. Number 10, Vice Chair Leyland.
I move the above listed items be voted on at one time by roll call vote and be considered as consent agenda by the Board of Commissioners.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor in a second. We have any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Leyland,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke. Yes. Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Howie. Yes. Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. All right, committee reports. District 1.
No report tonight, thank you.
Roger that. Commissioner Lawrence.
Just that the appointments committee met, and we have a lot of appointments tonight to deal with.
Well, we do. District 3, Commissioner Locke.
Nope, nothing to report right now.
All right. I have no report either because everything that I talked about since our last meeting is in this agenda now. Commissioner Howie.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Barrera.
No report this evening.
Oh, I know you're not going to disappoint us.
No, you're not.
Yes, ma'am, please.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The Southwest Michigan Planning Commission, which is the regional planning commission for Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren counties, met on 2/21/23. We had a broadband presentation. That's probably the 10th I've had. Elected officers for the year, and we have the chair and secretary from Cass County. We have the vice chair and alternate treasurer from Van Buren County, and the treasurer and alternate secretary from Berrien County. So all 3 counties in the region are represented. We established the fee that each county pays, and it is 21 cents per resident. The County Planning Commission met on 2/22/23 and selected the planner to review our current plan and bring it up to date. It is Carl Baxmeyer from Whiteman, and Carl did the Village of Cassopolis master plan. And so far, we have 5 townships that will be joining with us, and it will take from, at least from 8 to 10 months to complete. In my district, I attended 2 new search committees, one for the Edwardsburg Food Pantry Coordinator who resigned, and then the Superintendent of Edwardsburg Schools who is retiring. I also attended a ribbon-cutting ceremony for EQ United in Mason Township, and Market Van Buren brought the project to Mason Township Board, and they passed a motion for tax abatement. And that's it.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Lee.
I had a Southwestern Michigan Behavioral Health and Human Services meeting. It's interesting that that is the one that I had this week because that seems to be the underlying issue that we're dealing with here. They deal with mental health. They are supposed to help service people that are alcoholics, all this. So all of your alcohol tax is supposed to go to this. It's interesting to me as I've sat in on those meetings, the talk is the overwhelming amount of money goes to treatment and very little actually goes to prevention. But what is it? What was the old saying? Like a dime of prevention is worth like a dollar of treatment. So that might be something that would be good for everyone in the public because it seems that we can all agree that is an issue to start looking into. Again, that's the Southwestern Michigan Behavioral Health Board. Just going forward, as far as where that money goes and how it's processed, I'd be very interested in hearing back from anyone that has any thoughts on it.
Not right now, though.
Not right now.
Unless it's from one of my commissioners. Any questions for Commissioner Lee? All right. Thank you, sir. Matt, you're up.
Yes, my report is in the packet. I'm happy to answer any questions for that. One quick thing,
a week from tomorrow, so on March 10th, we will have a final walkthrough of the historical courthouse from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. that's open to the public. It gives everybody a chance to kind of see progress of the demo work and kind of take one last look around before construction will start later on this year. So we will have some light refreshments, some kind of posters and things up to kind of let everybody see what everything's going to look like. So we, of course, welcome all of the public to attend if they're able to.
All right. Any questions from my commissioners to the administrator? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Matt. Kareem, our other veteran, welcome home. You're up.
If you don't mind, I'm going to move this.
Yeah?
Because I don't like to stand with my back to it.
Hey, I get it. That's why I got my back right here.
I think it's just for me. That's just me, though. Good evening, everybody. I know it's a long night, so I'll just keep it really brief. From February, in February, we had contact with 184 veterans. That's by phone, email, faxes, appointments, walk-ins, and a couple home visits that were done. Soldiers and Sailors Board approved one application, and that was for a mortgage that was paid. We have an application up at state right now for the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund Board, waiting to hear on that. From January to February, I was able to help veterans receive $60,793.11 in retro payments. Excuse me. Which, you know, we're getting there. Every month it just keeps going up, which is a great thing because all that money's coming back into our community. I do want to take a couple seconds, if you don't mind.
Please.
And thank a couple people here. The first one I'd like to thank is to Monica. We had a veteran in our community turn 100 years old on February 9th. She reached out to Senator Jonathan Lindsay, okay, and made arrangements for him to present the veteran with a certificate honoring him for his service and dedication. Monica, you were able to make that really special for him. His family just enjoyed it. He was so appreciative, so thank you. The other, I want to give a little shout out is to LaGrange Township Board. They have set aside $20,000 for peacetime and wartime veterans out of their ARPA money. I wanted to thank the board members, Rob Wright, Naomi Criswell, Tasha McCoy, Paul File, and John Jurov. And that is for their township only. So if anybody comes in contact with anybody from that township that's needing help, please direct them to us. It'll still go through the same kind of process, but they are keeping the money. And then I just take it down to Naomi. And she'll get the thing paid for us, for everybody. Does anybody have questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always good to hear that we're taking care of our veterans that protect us. You know, and every time I see one, I tell them welcome home, regardless of what war they served in, and if they were peacetime, because they still signed that contract, you know, and their life is in danger. And that goes for my law enforcement officers also.
Good job, Monica. Good job.
Yes, ma'am. If it weren't for you, a lot of us would be in trouble. County partners, I always forget my buddy Jake Young. Is he here today?
No, it isn't.
Jake's not here.
But you are. We know you. Come on up.
Jake's not here, but he's in Berrien County for their annual meeting at the district there. He sent me, as I come every year, with tree sale catalogs. So passing them around because it's big. It's our big fundraiser, and plus we have some awesome plants available for everybody. I also wanted to announce March 11th at the Cass District Library. We're having a pollinator workshop in the morning. If you're interested in that. For soil erosion and sediment control, just a real quick update. We've had, since October 1, 67 permits and 6 waivers. I probably have a dozen more ready to go and a couple waivers. We're just getting into our busy time, and we're already Last year, the 67th permit was issued about mid-April. So we're ahead of the game as it goes right now. I also have a new focus that we had the state of Michigan Eagle contacted me because we had to go out to all of the cannabis farms and inspect their sites and give them to have soil erosion permits. I had a couple of the sites that we did have permits from because they built structures and their site was over an acre in size. So that meets our normal regulations, or if it was within 500 foot of a lake or stream. The others were fences and agriculture, but it turns out they're not agriculture, they're considered commercial. And so because of that, they have to be in compliance with their whole site to be stabilized. And everyone's working with me well so far. We had a hard time getting into one of the locations, but the next thing we'll have on our docket will be the solar farms, because the solar farms are also going to be moving in the area, and they will have to comply with the site soil erosion permits as well. So a little different than our normal when we're working next to shorelines. We do have a couple of large projects. AEP will be doing another utility facility, and of course you've seen Midwest Energy, I'm sure, the project, the Smart Park and Hydro. They've already got to do renewals on those projects. So we've been busy, a lot of violations, and we're working with them as best as we can, but it's for the importance of the lakes that people protect the shoreline when they're doing their projects. We've got a lot of dirt going into lakes, and we're afraid we're going to have more algae blooms, and it'll bring down the values of the houses if they have that kind of situation. So get the word out. That's all I can say is we try to get out there to begin with to get the erosion controls in place. Any questions for me?
Yes, ma'am. I've been fielding a lot of calls from Howard Township, and Howard Township's meetings have been packed against the solar farms. Has your office received any phone calls about that?
No.
No?
Actually, we haven't. We had some calls earlier in the year and last summer about Jefferson Township and the projects there. Right now, there's some issues with Newburgh Township's program. There's been a little in discussions because some of the businesses came in, but from what our understanding is that they really didn't talk to the neighbors as they should have, and that's not a good way to start
Right.
start out
That's
a
not
good cooperation.
relationship, right.
But we have not been involved yet. In fact, I just got the plans for the Newburgh sites, and it was clear they're going to need a soil erosion permit. So I was just trying to get ahead of the game because so many of these don't think that they need one, and then it's after the fact. So.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You can add after the meeting, please, because we got to continue with business. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the way it is. All right. Any other county partners out there? So are elected officials. My favorite sheriff. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. County partner. I didn't mean to skip you, brother. Please, our transportation director. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick update for the commissioners. We are in the midst of our audit right now. Try to work through that. As reported earlier, also, we are in desperate need of drivers. We have increased our pay. Try to attract and retain more drivers. If you know people, please send them our way. As well as we're intending to partner with Michigan Works and possibly to attend and participate more in their job fairs to try to recruit more drivers. That's a constraint on our capacity right now. As soon as we can get that driver capacity up, then we'll be trying to expand our services and offer more services according to what was done by the consultants. So appreciate your continued support.
How much are you? I'm making $20 an hour part time. How much y'all paying? I've got a CDL.
Okay, let's talk after the meeting.
All right. Just putting that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for helping our veterans also. So I don't forget any more county partners. Are there any more county partners out there? Now, my favorite sheriff. Please, you have the floor.
This is Moose and Rocco.
Moose and squirrel.
I appreciate the Veterans Affairs Coordinator for bringing the podium over here, even though their backs are the wall, mine are not right now, so I appreciate that. The chair asked me to have a couple extra people tonight, so I took the opportunity to take our two newest deputies to come out and join us so I could introduce you, so they could have a dual purpose to get an introduction and also to be here for safety and security. Clay Hoggard to your left is 4 years? 4 years you've been? Yes, yeah, 4 years as an officer from Battle Creek. He applied with us during the summer here, and we vetted an offer to him, and he started in January of this year. It's great to have somebody with experience so they can jump right in. He is going through the FTO process at this time. We're hoping he'll be through that process very soon, and we're very happy to have Clay join us. Also with us tonight is also Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson comes to us from Mobile, Alabama. Now, that's one thing you're not expecting, right? So, but he does have family connections here in Cass County. He has a sister. He wanted to move back north. He was born and raised in Michigan, worked in Wisconsin. He was a member of the Coast Guard, and he wanted to move back to the area to be closer to his family. So we welcomed him with open arms, and he joined us in January as well. I've said they could have 10 minutes tonight if they could to give a speech or anything. But
Afterwards, sir, I've got something for them to welcome them to the county, so don't shoo them out.
I don't know, they got to get back to, they're on night shift tonight. But one thing I would like to express is this is a result of me being able to have a little leniency in the scale to attract people who have experience from other jurisdictions. So I got to start them outside of that scale and to the amounts that they deserve. So I appreciate having that availability. Also, an update with our two officers who were in the academy. They're about halfway through. They just took their midterm physical exam. They passed that, so that's a big thumbs up. So they'll be ready for us in May to come out and start the same process of FTO. So that adds up to 5 people we've hired since the end of December and through the month of January, and 2 more coming to, including those 2 coming out. We're still looking for some. We still are 3 short for the road patrol and 3 short for the jail. So if you know of anybody who might be interested, please send them our way. We pay for their training, and I think we offer a great opportunity. These guys got smiles on their faces. So anyway, I appreciate you guys coming forward. Thanks.
We're gonna see if he knows. I know you know. There you go, brother. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Hit the camera. And this guy was with me yesterday and protected me for about 3 hours. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate your service. Thank you, sir.
Also, there was a person who spoke this evening who said they had a complaint to file with my office. I want you to know they've never come to me, the undersheriff, the captain, or anybody from my office to file a complaint for what took place, what allegedly took place. So they were not being denied any due process or way to file that complaint. Undersheriff did speak with her in the hall, and we're going to go through that process with her. So the fact that she's asked you guys for help, we're getting the proper response to that. So.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you. We've spoken about the resolution. You have the right to do any resolutions that you wish. And I support the resolution as far as supporting the laws. I do not support the fact that you're trying to run my office and trying to tell me what to do. And I feel that is against the law, and we will take full advantage of doing our jobs the proper way. But I fully support the fact that you're against the laws that have been proposed. I'm a Michigan State man. I bleed green. But these 3 laws, or bills I should say, would have nothing to, would not prevented anything with that shooting on Michigan State's campus, none whatsoever. So to use that as the flagship is not proper in my opinion. But anyway, you have the rights to do resolutions to any laws or anything that you please, but just try to stay in your lane, so to speak, and don't tell the elected officials what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Treasurer, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Hope Anderson, Cass County Treasurer, and I would like to give some input on your motion, M45-23, which would provide for a $250,000 contribution from the county to Midwest Energy's Robin Grant project. The funding options proposed are to utilize either county ARPA funds or public improvement funds or fund balance. Please remember that in February of 2022, ARPA funds were obligated for the Cass County Jail Improvement Project. In addition, funds were designated for urgent upgrades needed for the Sheriff's Office. Then, in October of 2022, all of the funding previously obligated and designated for the jail and the Sheriff's Office were redesignated, and the full remaining balance of ARPA funds were obligated towards the historic courthouse renovation, as well as an additional $1.5 million from the Public Improvement Fund. Now, I would think we would not even consider redesignating the ARPA funds again for this $250,000 for the Midwest Energy. I was always taught you take care of home first. When we know we have urgent upgrades needed for the Sheriff's Office. And per resolution R-42-22, ARPA funds were already obligated to the jail improvement project. Please consider removing the ARPA appropriation from the memorandum of agreement for this MEC grant. In addition, I do understand this Robin grant will cover about 552 locations within the county. I was asked by the public if those are full-time residents of Cass County, and I don't know that answer. But I want to throw it out there. If you don't know and you want to know, I'd be happy to provide that. If you can give me the list of parcel numbers, I'll let you know. Maybe that would weigh into this decision. Thank you for your time. I would be happy to answer any questions that anyone would have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Drain Commissioner. Mr. Van Bell.
No report tonight.
All right, that's probably a good thing.
He's getting that vibe.
Carol Beeler, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm Carol Beeler. I'm the probate judge and chief judge for our courts. With respect to what the treasurer just spoke about as far as the MEC project, I certainly understand the need for broadband, and especially since people are wanting to work from home more now and have that ability, it's certainly an understandable endeavor. The only thing that we had a question about, we being elected officials, is whether or not, since MEC is a for-profit entity, we understand the concept of a matching grant, but they're going to be making money then off of all of these 500 additional customers, whether or not there's any opportunity for us to recoup on down the road from them, since this would be taxpayer money being spent on this project. And I'm not sure, what the answer to that is, but that was just a question that we had. As far as the resolution about, and I don't remember the number, I apologize, 4323, I support what the sheriff said. I was a little unclear when I read the resolution what the expectation is for the courts with respect to this topic. I support the Constitution and the Second Amendment, so there's no argument for me on that front. I also don't know that any of the new legislation that's being looked at, whether or not that would have prevented what happened at MSU. So I don't have any knowledge about that. But I do know there's constantly changes being made as far as gun restrictions for people who've been convicted of certain offenses, for people, for example, that have a personal protection order against them. And I don't know right now, as we stand here, what legislation will stream from Senate Bill 0076 through 0086. But just speaking for myself as a judge, I have to follow whatever the law is in effect at the time something gets brought before me. So I guess we just were a little unclear. One of my benchmates who's on vacation and couldn't be here tonight, he was a little unclear about what that part of the resolution meant when it said that Cass County Board of Commissioners expects all elected officers of Cass County to support and enforce this resolution, what the expectation was, because when we take oaths as judges, we have to apply the law as is in effect at the time that we're hearing cases, because you don't want your judges legislating from the bench, I don't think, and I'm just speculating, but, whatever the law is, at any given time that I hear a case, I make the lawyer cite it to me, and then, I try to stay within the bounds of the law, because I feel that's my ethical and moral and legal obligation. So again, just expressing that I don't really know what some of that verbiage means. It's not necessarily that I'm in opposition to the sentiment or to what you're trying to achieve. It was very informative to listen to all of our residents and their concerns. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion as a judge, the right to bear arms is not absolute in terms of our felons and some people that have restrictions placed on them. And I want to be sure that we can continue to impose those restrictions. I understand that many of you don't feel those restrictions are effective, but I have seen weapons confiscated from felons or from people entering our jail or from people entering our building. Security removes them from people. So it's not an absolute right to bear arms anywhere, anytime, any place. So again, I just don't really know what the particulars of that resolution mean because of the broad way in which it's written. And then I just wanted to indicate, I was at the Michigan Drug Court Conference, and I just wanted to tell you, somebody came up to me from another county and they said, is something really strange in your water in Cass County? And I was bracing myself for, who knows what they're gonna say out of their mouth next. And they just said, well, I just really wanna tell you, we've had people telling us how great their experience was with your Register of Deeds office and how they have so much online now, and their county and their citizens were saying, why can't you guys be like Cass County? And so they were like, you're making us look bad. And I was like, oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. So I didn't even tell Monica about that because I just got back from that yesterday. But it was so nice because when they said, what's in the water down in Cass County, I thought they were going to be complaining, and I braced myself, but they had a compliment. So it's always nice to hear those compliments. So thank you.
Speaking of Monica, you are up. All right, thank you, ma'am. You've had enough. Huh? Yes, ma'am.
Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
I would request a 5-minute recess.
We need to smack the gavel. All right. That's a motion.
Making a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Support. All right. Any further discussion on that? Because I got to go too. All in favor? Any opposed? 5 minutes. Back. Get carried away with that thing. Yeah. Well, he'll just be late. Yeah. New business. All right.
16 was struck from the agenda.
Yep. All right, moving on. We've got under new business, Commissioner Barrera.
M-33-23, motion to adopt revised Board of Commissioners rules and procedure.
A second?
We have a motion on the floor and the support. Do we have any discussion on this motion? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, this is about a part of the rules of procedure that has to do with introduction of visitors.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you all to know that I actually like having introduction of visitors. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the workshop, or I would have spoken out about that. I don't know all of our employees, and I'm so happy when they come and then they introduce themselves, and then, because we see things every day that have to do with our employees, that I can put faces with the names. And I feel the same about our residents or any visitors. So I'm not in favor of removing that from the agenda.
All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do also have a comment regarding the order of business. Highlighted here, 11 and 12. We've got listed as bullet point 11, committee reports, and followed by bullet point 12, shows district reports. I just want some clarity on that. Are we just gonna, as we go around the table to discuss that, is the commissioner just gonna do both committee and district reports, or do we go all the way around on committee reports and then go all the way back around for district reports?
Who would like to speak on that?
I think the idea that we were talking about was essentially that looking at standing committees specifically, that, you know, if there was a need for a policy committee, or appointments committee or something, to want to give a specific report, to have that, and then have district reports after that. I mean, because I think there are some instances where multiple commissioners sit on different committees, and, you know, in some cases, we're talking about standing committees of the board, or we could be talking about this board or commission that you sit on, that, you know, whether it's Woodlands or something else. So to try to kind of delineate that a little bit, that was the idea behind it.
Okay. For more clarification.
Yeah.
Okay.
That, and I think the other idea was to kind of foster, you know, a setup where if a commissioner wanted to talk about things going on in their district, you know, to kind of give an avenue to kind of provide those updates there as well too. That was at least kind of the thought process that went into that.
All right.
So we would go around the room twice, correct?
I mean, I don't know if you'd necessarily have to do that. I mean, what we could probably do is if there was a need for a committee to be on the agenda, you know, and that can kind of be determined later. If it's, hey, you know, the policy committee would like to get the discussion, or, you know, something like that, you could add it. If there was no, you know, committee
If not,
report that
we
came
just
up,
go
it would just
around
go right
once.
to district reports essentially.
Yeah, as long as the commissioner there would make it known, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, which lane, since lanes are a topic tonight. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Got it. Ayes have it. That was Alpha. Bravo. Commissioner Lee.
All right. I move to approve M-34-23, the revised Board of Commissioners meeting schedule.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a support. Do we have any discussion on this motion?
Yes, I do have some discussion on that.
Yes, sir.
So is it my understanding that what we're looking at is basically going from one Board of Commissioner meeting to one business meeting or COW meeting? In lieu of having our regular schedule now, for instance, to have two Board of Commissioner meetings, and then we were supposed to have an additional COW meeting after that.
So what it is the first of the month, we have to have our business meeting so we can pay the bills for the county, you know, and conduct business for the month. The COW would be for proposing agenda items so we can have discussions in greater detail, and we'd have less questions and more clarity for the public and for the commissioners, and to discuss them for the following meeting. But if there were any issues that came up that had to have decisions, like extra bills, any changes that have time constraints, like the grants, anything legal with the courts, the sheriff department, or the prosecutor's office or anything like that, we'd have a meeting, a business meeting after the cow. And that should be quick because that doesn't come up very often, you know? So we have that option after the cow to do any business that was pertinent or time constraining that couldn't wait till the next meeting.
Sure, so for the record, I do want to just let it be stated that I'm all for the cow. However, just being a new commissioner, I speak for myself here, not the other new commissioners, but just still in that learning curve process, I think it's important that we keep our schedule as is and we find ways to accommodate to add in the cow. And then further, once we are getting more comfortable in the role and things progress and we start seeing that we could streamline this process a little bit more, then maybe we would look at revising the schedule.
And I have thought about that also. So the cow and our procedures, that is a living document. So just like you said, if it doesn't work out, you know, that cow doesn't work out, during the cow, we would propose a motion for our next business meeting to end it. And we'd go on as discussed if we can come up with a better solution, just as you said. But we can try it first. And if it don't work out, we're gonna nix that bad boy, you know, and try something different. And we'd be open for very good suggestions because we'll be learning, because I was in your place 2 years ago and I get it. And we're all learning still. Even Roseanne, she's the longest one here, but we're still learning something every day.
Every day.
So let's try it out this first time. And as we go, we'll do exactly what you said, sir.
All right.
And so-
Yes, sir.
Just so everybody knows, versus the previously published schedule, the only date that really changes, because we had scheduled 2 meetings before, the only date that changed was for last year, and what was proposed for this year was that first meeting in August was removed because of Fair Week, with the fact that, you know, if you're moving to regular meeting committee of the whole, we needed to have another regular meeting at that point. So that's where that August 10th date comes in, was essentially moving that a week behind to make sure that there was a regular meeting that happened as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, ayes have it. Charlie, Commissioner Lawrence.
I move to appoint Susan Cleaver to the Cass County District Library Board to an unexpired term ending in 12/31/2024.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a support. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Delta, Commissioner Lott.
I move to reappoint Lyndon Parrish to the Parks Commission to a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2026.
Support.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a support. Is there any discussion on this motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Echo, Commissioner Lawrence.
I move to reappoint Bruce Campbell to the Park Commission for a 3-year term expiring 12/31/2026.
I second.
I have a motion on the floor and support. We have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Foxtrot, Commissioner Lott.
I move to reappoint Fritz Kuklik to the Parks Commission for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2026.
Support.
All right, I have a motion on the floor and support. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Golf, Commissioner Lawrence.
I move to reappoint Robert Parrish to the Park Commission for a 3-year term expiring 12/31/2026.
Second.
We have motion on the floor and support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Hotel, Commissioner Lott.
I move to appoint Jeremy Carlisle to the Community Correction Advisory Board, representing public safety to an unexpired term ending in September 30th, 2024.
Second.
We have motion on the floor and support. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. India, Commissioner Lawrence.
I move to appoint Ambrosia Nelden to the Community Corrections Advisory Board, representing communications and media, to a 4-year term ending 9/30/2027.
I second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and support. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Juliet, Commissioner Locke.
Motion to reappoint Chris Bergen to the Veterans Advisory Board to a 4-year term ending March 31st, 2027.
Second.
We have motion on the floor and support. Have any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Here we go. Kilo, Commissioner Leyland,
You guys all want me to read this, or you just want me to move it off the title?
off the title.
I move that we approve the resolution R4323 as written.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and support. Is there any discussion from my commissioners on this resolution?
The only one that I have is the one term there that we put in near the end, where we expect. Do we really want to leave that in there, or do we want to change that to maybe like strongly urge?
Encourage, yeah.
Urge.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I move to amend this resolution by changing out that word expect and inserting encourage.
All right. So that's a motion. Do we have a?
That's an amendment.
That's
yeah.
amendment motion. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
We have support. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor for that amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Amendment passes. So back to the motion. Do we have any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I spent considerable time going through those 11 bills. I agree with the comment that was made that none of the bills address what happened regrettably at Michigan State University and our daughter. So we have a special place. Our daughter went there. And so we have a special place in our hearts for Michigan State and for what happened. But no bill addresses what happened or how to address what happened. And also, I did notice that there, in the bills, there does not appear to be any due process. So that's my comment, and again, I will say, I spent
I know you
probably
did.
way too much
I
time
know you did.
on this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So I would like to be known that I did make several calls within the district that I represent, between Porter and Calvin and that little sliver of Mason. Overwhelming support for it, but I did also take and read and listen to both sides. I want it understood that I did not just take one side. I do appreciate all the comments and how everybody handled themselves well. I would also like to offer my condolences to you, Hope, for your son being up there at state and the worry that you had.
And Carol too, Carol Beer.
Yep, and Carol.
Yeah.
I do also want to say that as conservatives, we're typically marked as being reactive instead of proactive, and I would say that this bill is a way for us to be proactive, despite the fact that there might be some gray areas.
There are some flaws and gray areas, but I get it. Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none,
Roll call.
please roll call. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Howie,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
and Commissioner Leyland.
Yes.
All right. Resolution passes. All right. Lima, Commissioner Howie. Somebody.
Actually, me.
Whoops. Oh, I skipped one as I crossed it out. I'm sorry.
R44-23 is a resolution of support for Midwest Energy and Communications application to the Robin Grant Program. I so move.
Second.
All right. We have a motion on the floor and second. Do we have any discussion on this motion? Hearing none? All in
Roll call.
roll call. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Thank you.
Yes.
Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Howie,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Leyland,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes. Thank you. I get going. I don't see the R's or the M's. Oh, speaking of M, Mike, Commissioner Marquetti.
Yes, I move to approve the memorandum of agreement for matching fund commitment for MEC Robin Grant.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion on this motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. I
Yes,
don't know-
ma'am.
I don't know if it's appropriate at this time, or I should wait for the comments afterwards. Okay.
It's up to you.
I'm really excited. I received a lot of phone calls today from people in LaGrange, and I'm excited. You know, they really want this service, and I'm excited for them. I do have a problem with the ARPA funds, though, because they were designated and obligated to our sheriff. And earlier this week, I did present 2 motions for his badly needed projects. I really would like to put that on a fast track
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that we have a safe jail. Safety and security is important to all the residents in our community, above everything else. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
This is one of those things where I think sometimes in trying to kind of touch on the options that are out there, it's not always the easiest to kind of put everything in a neat box, I guess. You know, we do our best when we're kind of articulating these things to try to present all of the choices that are available. So when we were looking at funding sources, we mentioned all of those that could possibly apply. It's not necessarily the position of administration that ARPA funding should be used. In fact, I don't think that it should be. I talked with Finance Director Renfro, and we would say that when you look at this, the one thing I wanted to clarify for everybody, just so everybody knows, is that this is for an application. There's no guarantee it would be approved. And then secondly, the project wouldn't start until '24. And more than likely, I talked with Terry from MEC. Based on the timeline of the project, we'd be looking at a completion sometime late '24, so we'd be talking probably fiscal year '25 at that point, so there's 2 fiscal years. We would actually advocate more that we would look at fund balance usage more than anything. I think, you know, when you look at the courthouse, you know, you mentioned the congressionally directed spending grant, refunding some of that potentially. We're still exploring grants for the courthouse that could free some of that up as well, but I can't really tell you right now what may come of that. I don't know exactly what would be left over. I think the safest route would be to just allocate fund balance. And then if there are those extra ARPA dollars, utilize that for other purposes instead. That would be what we would recommend.
Now, would I be correct or right or wrong if, because we passed this, if the townships do not come up with their side, we get this money back and there's no loss to the county?
Yeah, and I can tell you that right now, all this really is a commitment to support that amount.
If it would go that far.
If it's
And
approved.
absolutely, the local townships were all approached in terms of also sharing in that responsibility. I've actually been working also in the last couple of days to try to figure out, you know, I know that they were seeking more along the lines of about $700,000 across all of the townships and municipalities. So we've kind of approached them and said, you know, that's not something that's feasible for us, but if we allocate this amount, you know, does that change the project a little bit? Can this be modified to fit? I know we're still waiting to hear from the townships, but absolutely. I mean, it's certainly possible that may see some changes, and maybe that full $250,000 isn't realized, or, you know, maybe not at all. That's certainly a
And if
possibility
it
as
doesn't,
well.
then we can satisfy some of this going to the law enforcement and other places in the county.
Sure.
Got it. I got it, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Really quick just on this. So I do support the sheriff, and that we definitely do need to get our jail up to date. You know, there's definitely a few issues there. Primary job of government is to provide safety and security. However, in this case, this will be very beneficial, especially to the people in my district. I talked to a few people that are going to be affected by this. you know, they are people that live here, their children, they use it for education, they will greatly benefit from having that there. Also, with 30% of this is gonna be in Mason Township. That's right along that corridor there. It's gonna be more accessible for industry. And I can't imagine that it wouldn't be of a benefit to help try and draw some industrialization there because it's right up close to 80-90 Elkhart. So having internet like that available is definitely a perk to help grow our community.
And we could still recoup some of that money for future.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So industry pays taxes, pays considerable taxes.
Yes. All right, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Mason Township had a special meeting, and I attended this special meeting, and they're waiting to hear if the county is going to help, but they're on board. And I drove, I've been to so many broadband that actually I'm getting quite good at it. I'm getting quite good at recognizing who has broadband and who doesn't. But I drove from 5 Points to Kensington, and it's dark. It is dark. And I agree 100% with what Commissioner Lee and I share Mason Township. And they are very, very much in need of this. So we did a project like this with Jefferson a year and a half ago. And and I know that quite a large number of people on that project have hooked up. So I am in favor of it. But by the same token, last year, I and one other commissioner in 2 different meetings said we have to take care of the sheriff. And we do want to do that. And I'm sure there will be money. This is a reimbursable. In other words, we don't come up with a dime of this until it's all done. Everything is done. So we don't have to pay. So we're probably looking at 2 budget cycles for this.
Got it. All right, any further discussion? Yes, sir.
I just want to say that I am in favor of this as well, but I also am in favor of doing our jail. We got to keep our jail safe. We got to keep our officers safe. We've got to keep the people that are in the courts building safe, because we also have a liability to them to keep them safe, and we have a liability to this community to keep them safe. So I'm not against this, but we really need to focus our attention on the safety of our community and our law and courts building, our county garage, our dog pound, and all those entities that we take care of.
That's right.
Our employees need to be safe and sound, and if the jail wrap were to open up and let the prisoners out, I'm saying that
be bad.
the community would not be safe. So those should be and ought to start being our priority here at the township, at the county level.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion?
Chairman, while I'm in favor of economic development, I have conflicted here on this decision because it's difficult for me to think how we're going to spend this much taxpayer money when MEC stands to profit from our investment.
Absolutely.
It's
Can I
true.
say something?
It's true.
Yes, sir.
The one thing that, MEC has talked about, and I think in a lot of the broadband meetings we talked about, just for clarity, I guess, is that there's a reason why these aren't served now. Because it's not profitable. I mean, you're talking about small densities in terms of numbers, you're talking about large, long runs of fiber. That is kind of the reason why when you look at the federal government, state government, on down to some of these programs, you're seeing these public-private partnerships coming out of the woodwork, is that there really isn't a way that an MEC or any other entity without public dollars is going to be able to afford this and any sort of a return on investment that's going to make sense. I mean, I think, was it $65,000 a mile or something like that?
Yeah,
just to run the
$65,000
service?
a mile.
I mean, you start looking at some of these services, I mean, to a $2.8 million project, you start looking at what people pay on a monthly basis. I mean, maybe you recoup those costs over 50 years, but that's not really good business decisions for some of those entities. So I guess just to kind of put that into clarity, that's why you're seeing some of this happen, is that you know, there really isn't a way for a company to be able to kind of see that in terms of, it's not a big dollar sign in terms of profitability for them. It's, you know, trying to find this middle ground where, you know, we can work together to try to help make sure that people that are unserved get that service. Otherwise, in the absence of that, it's not likely to change.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
While I understand what Matt's saying, I think we need to prioritize our spending. We have very limited funds.
Got it. That's what we're gonna talk about, the cow. All right. Discussion is closed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Motion carries. All right, it is late. We have been here, I have been here since 3. So with no objection, I'm gonna end this meeting and adjourn it. Meeting adjourned.